Hello, I'm here with Pastor Mark Brungard, Church of the Rock. Nick Glatzer here. We have been excited to share something with you guys concerning an involvement, a thing that has evolved over the years here at Church of the Rock called Rite of Passage, or Rite of Passage, I think it is. Something that began years ago, and I've been fortunate to kind of have a front row seat to watch it happen through the Brungards. And so we're going to share with you a little bit today about that. First, as a church, how we put these things into place, and then the Brungards as a family, how they have, played them out, lived them out, and you're going to also get to hear from the Brungards' oldest son today, and some observants, some participants, and what it was like to go through it. So first, Rite of Passage.
What is it?
Yeah, what is it?
Do you have a definition of that?
I do.
Why don't you just read that first, and then we'll explain it maybe if it's too complicated.
Right. Out of the dictionary. I love dictionaries, so here it is. A ceremony or event marking an important stage in someone's life, especially birth, puberty, marriage, and death. And so some of that sounds familiar. There's probably a few others that you could probably put in there, and some do. But how does that play out here in America, and more specifically at Church of the Rock?
Right, that's really what we want to share, is the power that we've seen in ceremony. There are ceremonies that we see take place in our culture all the time. We might not realize how important they are, that they're a big deal. For instance, a wedding ceremony, a graduation ceremony, an awards banquet ceremony. And these events make something very important, make a person feel very valued. And what we'd really like to highlight today through it all is the Rite of Passage ceremony, the coming of age ceremony that we don't see too often in our culture anymore, and we believe is very important. And that's one of the things that are at the heart of why we're making this video.
Right. Yeah, many cultures throughout history have utilized these, whether they are maybe the celebrating and the transitioning of a child into manhood or womanhood from indigenous primitive cultures, taking them out in the woods, beating the drum, maybe even cutting them up a little bit, their first hunt, to the bar mitzvah of the Jewish culture. And so, we look around at our culture and we kind of say, where did that go? Where is it? How does that happen? When does a boy become a man? And does that even matter? Is that important? And so we came across a book years ago called Raising a Modern Day Knight. We have it here, and Robert Lewis wrote this book, and what he does to this book is he kind of gives us a framework to maybe bring that back a little bit and use that in our family, in our church, in our culture. And I just want to read the paragraph on the back that kind of sums it up. He uses the medieval custom of knighthood, and it offers a unique approach to shaping a boy into a strong, godly man. Centuries ago, select boys went through a rigorous, years-long process of clearly defined objectives, goals, and ceremonies with the hope of achieving knighthood. Along the way, they acquired a boldly masculine vision, an uncompromising code of conduct, and a noble cause in which to invest their lives. They were the heroes of their age. And so what we did is began kind of using that and talking about that and how does that play out. It's not a specific, exact, has to be this way kind of thing. But the thing I love is that he gives us that framework and the tools and what the ceremonies might look like. And so we're going to unpack that a little bit practically, but what are some of the highlights of a ceremony that come to mind as you think about the ones you've done with your kids? What were some of the things you try to incorporate in each one?
Well, I think a ceremony that's effective is one that's costly. It's one that causes you to invest, your time, your resources, and in your planning. And that's something that's going to really make that person feel honored and special. A good ceremony is one that I think casts a vision. And what we chose to do, and it's really something that the book talks about as well, is having a company of men or women, if we're talking about a girl, to come around that person and to help share insights, share what they see in that person, and to speak truth to that person. So we really want to use this time as something that helps to cast that vision for this person of who they are and what we see them becoming as a young woman or a young man, their talents, their personalities, and those types of things. So we really want that ceremony to be a costly one that's well thought out, well planned. We want it to be specifically tailored to that person that fits their personality, whatever that theme of that party or that ceremony may look like. And we certainly want it to be one where truth is shared to that person, where values are imparted to that person. So those are some of the important highlights that this coming of age rite of passage should be about, what the ceremony should look like.
Yeah, and for me, when I think about why is this important, right? What's the big deal? And two reasons came to my mind. And the one was, even if you don't totally agree with Robert Lewis and his, definition and description of masculinity, which is a real man is one who rejects passivity, accepts responsibility, leads courageously, and expects the greater reward. Even if that's not totally what you think masculinity or manhood is, he challenges you and helps you to work through it so that you can, make peace and have confidence in what it is to be a man. Because, and I agree with Robert, he says a manhood is like a shotgun. It's a powerful weapon that can be used for great good or destruction. And so even more specifically, as it relates to the faith, he makes this insight that I thought was just tremendous. He says, every man needs to know that he will ultimately draw his masculinity from the first Adam of Genesis, or the second Adam, Jesus Christ. And so when you look around, I don't think I need to convince you or you that there are a lot of men that are giving their strength or their lack thereof from the first Adam. And so they end up either not giving their strength for the good or using it for their own personal agenda. You agree with that?
Yeah, very well said. And I think it's important that we help point these young men or young ladies in the right direction. And that's why it's so important to mark out that path, so to speak, or to give them a vision of what a Christian man should look like and sound like, or a Christian woman. And they need that set of ideals that Jesus Christ purely and truthfully laid out in his life and in his word. They need to know that their life is about something greater. They need that transcendent cause that's not about them. It's not about just this life. They're here for something greater, for his will to be done, for his purposes to be served. And so I think that's what is so important, is that we surround them with people and we surround them with truth, and that they can clearly see what it is that a Christian man or woman is supposed to do, how they're supposed to act, and what it should look like. And that's what this book really helps us to practically do.
Right. It just really brings that focus, right? I mean, whether you're a parent or a father or a mother, it helps to bring the focus that you're not just kind of wishing and hoping that it all kind of works out.
And a word you use all the time is it helps us to be intentional to do it. I think all parents want to see their children grow up to be this picture, but unless you intentionally set out, to put these steps into action and do it, we are just kind of crossing our fingers and hoping and praying that it happens.
And so let me ask you this before we end this. Has it helped hold you accountable to as parents?
Absolutely. You know what else, Nick? It's helped other people be accountable that we included in this rite of passage ceremony. And that's what Carrie and I found to be so important, that we've seen, that we ask these men and women to come around our children, and then growing up through the teenage years, we've noticed they've taken a special interest. They've been more intentional in getting that group of people, that company, as Mr. Lewis likes to call it, around them, and that's been very powerful.
Great. Awesome. All right, well, in the next segment, we're going to bring in Miss Carrie Brungard, and we're going to basically hear their story, how this all began, some of the practical ways that they've lived this out, and hopefully, have some tools for you all if you want to take this to the next step in your own family or church.
See you soon.